Today I'm kicking off the morning in Chinatown. So I think 75% of all Singaporeans have Chinese heritage or background or have moved from here. One of the four languages, or the official languages of Singapore, is Mandarin. So they have English, Malay, another Indonesian language, and then Mandarin. And one of the really interesting things I learnt yesterday in the National Singaporean Museum, the 1700, 1800 period always fascinated me, and I've read a book called The Dragon and the Lion, The History of Conflicts Between Britain and China. So Singapore in the early 1900s had a lot of Chinese immigrants, also Indian immigrants. What's quite interesting about the period that Singapore was in was they were one of the main trade ports for the British. There was British occupation, it was a British colony, and it was also one of the pathways for Britain to flood China with opium. One of the things that Britain did not like is that they had a massive trade deficit with China, in which there was a lot of silver and gold and money flooding from upper class into Chinese shores. They didn't like that. So sanctioned by the government, and then therefore basically the shippers and exporters had essentially the support of the British government to take opium from Bengal in India and move it into ports in China, kind of tried to do it discreetly. Obviously the Chinese government caught on to this and they did not like that. It started the first opium war. British Armada lay siege and then attacked the port of Canton, or the city of Canton at the time. I can't remember the name of what it's called now. But it's really interesting because the British made opium illegal, said that the the side effects of it and the addiction to it was damaging and terrible, and they did not allow the import into the country after a certain time period, but they wanted to flood the Chinese markets. And so what happened is Singapore had a large Chinese base in this downtown region of Chinatown, and what that essentially meant was that a lot of opium dens would open up, similar to, they would reside next to slave traders and prostitute rings, and the opium was essentially a way to escape the horrible life that these migrants had, where they would basically go to this land with the promise of a job or some form of income, and then they would end up essentially as a slave, be sold and traded, and it was, horrible time. So their only way to escape it was through opium. And it's a really interesting time period because it's the British didn't like that they were buying all of these highly sought after materials and items from overseas. They didn't like that they had a deficit. So what did they do? Tariffs, and flooded the market with drugs. Essentially they were trying to cripple the lower class and middle class of China and make them dependent upon the import of British opium. The amazing fact that I learned a little while ago was that the British Empire basically wouldn't exist without the trade of opium. So at one point, 60 to 70% of all of British's money coming from colonies and other ports was through opium. Basically, without the opium that Britain controlled from India, they would not be the massive colonizer that they were. It's incredible, really. So my interest really took off with the First and Second Opium Wars, and learning about those Anglo-Chinese wars was thanks to Rebecca Keong. She's one of my favourite authors. She wrote Poppy Wars, which were historical fiction. They were incredible novels. I quite enjoyed them. You'd very much tell that they were her first attempt at writing fiction, but they were still great books. And then she followed it up with an amazing story. It was called Babel. It was a fictional take on, I guess, another historical event, but it was involving magic. the magic system she involved was like the missing parts of translation could be, I guess, accessed as magic, and it was an incredible book. But both of them spoke about British influence and Chinese shores, and how, I guess, empires come and go, and the main reason behind them falling, I guess. Yeah, they were incredible novels, and I'll never not recommend them enough. I absolutely love her writing. She's an amazing author, and I'm glad to see her doing really well. I'm sad that I missed out. She's in London or in France at the moment. I was trying to convince Callie, like, go and see her, please. Like, get one of her books and get her autograph for me. I'll happily pay for it, please. Because, yeah, she's an amazing author. She's got another novel coming out soon, Catabasis, which I've pre-ordered, but it's going to arrive home, obviously, and no one's going to pick it up, but that's all right, I'll read it when I get back. The other incredible thing about Singapore that's like always kind of stuck out to me was their social housing programs. So in the 70s to 80s, they had a housing or public housing program that was not working. They revamped it, and essentially they built 120,000 homes in, I think it was 10 years, compared to the 23,000 that they built in the past 32 years. By the end of that first decade, 1/3 of the entire population was housed in public housing. They had this massive increase in population, and it was incredible how they basically converted that all around. I think now something like 60 to 70% of the population lives in some form of social housing. So at least everybody has a home. It's incredible how quickly they turned it around. So, it's my third day in Singapore, and I'm still trying to get the bike. Having issues. The Land Transport Authority that I spoke to, I thought the last bit of approval that I needed was from them. So I hit them up and I was like, hey, how's my process going? Can I hear back from you? Because it said 3 to 5 days. And I was like, that's fine, that's all good. I can deal with that. And they're like, oh yeah, no, that's going all good. Just like, we can't really do anything until we process it. Like, it just takes time. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, is there any other documentation you need? Is this all done? And they're like, no. Once you get this pre-approval, then you can start the process. I'm like, what do you mean I can start the process? And they're like, oh, this is pre-approval for your entry permit. And I'm like, okay, I thought this was all handled. And they're like, yeah, like your broker probably has all of it done, but it's still going to take time after they give the approval to start the process. And I was like, oh crap, how long is that going to take? And it's like, it only takes a couple of days. I'm like, oh, that's okay, that's fine. But then they're like, oh, but your auto pass will take 2 weeks. Well, that's not going to work. I really wanted to leave Singapore, just do like a day, maybe getting some photos and go for a bit of a ride around. I wasn't really planning on staying a whole this long. So I've spoken to the broker, and we're making plans to basically transport the vehicle to the Malaysian border and throw it over there, because it's an easier process over there. They don't have this auto pass system. This has only started in, I think it was a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago, that the process like really kicked into gear, because Singapore was getting, tired of foreign vehicles coming in, using the roads, not like racking up a toll bill on them having to chase it. So the process of getting into Singapore has always been a difficult one if you're trying to bring in a foreign vehicle, but they've made it extra hard now. Like, they do not like it at all. On this Facebook group that I was talking to, or like trying to find questions about Singapore, they all said it was pretty difficult. Don't worry about it if like I was like, it's the start of my trip, I want to kick it off here. And so I thought I'd try the process, and that was what they were talking about was the time that they experienced it 1 year or 2 years ago. So it was difficult then, and I'm aware of that, and I was like, okay, well, it's like 14 pieces of documentation I need and all this other stuff, and I can get that through. I had all 12 or 13 there. It was just this pre-approval and then waiting for the auto pass. But since this new system has kicked in, it's going to take 3 weeks from day dot. So like, if I had started kicking this into gear a week before I left, I would still be waiting 2 weeks. And it was underway when I left. I thought it was all handled, but no. So yeah, that's okay. We pivot. We're making new plans. We're going to the Malaysian border, and that's much more simple. I just need my third-party insurance, need my carnet stamped, and it's a much more simple process. So hopefully, I'm hoping middle of next week, end of next week, I'll be underway. And timing is absolutely hilarious. So just after talking to the camera saying, oh, I don't know when I'll have my bike next, because like this whole process has just screwed me around, I get an email like 2 seconds later from the CSA in AA Singapore, basically saying, hey, we can tow the motorcycle to the border in 3 days time at 9 AM. Just be there. We'll sign your carnet in person. You can go with the driver, and then you can have your bike. So at the time, you can bring his luggage along and travel with the tow truck driver to the port to fetch your vehicle. Excellent. Thank God. So yeah, Monday, 9 AM. So I've got the weekend in Singapore, which is perfect because I was expecting at least another week to try and sort this out. So thank you very much to the broker. This is perfect. You know what, a week in Singapore has been, or 6 days, perfect amount of time. Any longer and I would have gone a bit stir crazy, but I can finally start riding. So this is where my journey actually begins, the southernmost point of continental Asia. It's Friday afternoon. I've got 2 more days in Singapore, and then the plan is, pick up my bike Monday morning. Going to drive from the Automotive Association of Singapore with the driver to the warehouse, and then from there we're going to leave for Malaysia. So we'll deliver the bike together. At that point, I should be right, because the Singapore entry requirements, it's just going to be too long to try and figure out how to get the bike on the road. With Malaysia, I can pretty much just head straight away. There might be a little bit of paperwork to sort out. This is where it actually begins. So I'm very looking forward to that. I'm very, very excited. I just can't wait to have my bike back. I've been hand washing clothes to try and get me through, because I've only had the backpack on my back for the past like 5 days or 4 days. So it'd be good to have some clothes that just haven't been hand washed. So yeah, this is the real start of the journey, is the Singapore coastline.